Hey guys, welcome to Nyonya Cooking. In this video, we are going to prepare something synonymous to Malaysia. And I had friends coming up to me saying, I've never been to Malaysia, but I want to try Assam Laksa. And this video is going to be all about preparing Assam Laksa. You've seen my previous video on preparing Laksa noodles. If you haven't, click the link in the description box. And this is how to prepare this beautiful broth, fish broth noodles that is a little bit spicy but more sour in terms of taste. It is really so delicious that it went up on the list of CNN most delicious food in the world. Anthony Bourdain was there many times. He raves about this dish all the time. So if you haven't tried this dish, you have to try this recipe to get a feel of Malaysia. The main ingredient is this fish broth. Now I'm using mackerel. If you do not have mackerel, you can also use sardine. And another ingredient that is quite core to Assam Laksa is this shrimp paste, and it is called heko. These are Vietnamese coriander, or also known as daun kasum. I've used this in my Nyonya Laksa noodles, and I've tasted it a bit onto it, fresh Vietnamese coriander. It is a little bit tangy, spicy too. A little bit like coriander actually. Really delicious, brings up this whole dish. And then for the spice, I have a bit of dried chilies, belacan. Now this is this other shrimp paste that is that must be toasted first, and it is sold in blocks. And then I have some turmeric, galangal, lemongrass, shallots. And then for garnishing, we have calamansi. If you do not have calamansi, you can use lime or lemon. And then these are salads. I have some shallots, this time sliced, some red chilies. If you want to add more spiciness, you can add a bit of burnt eye chilies. Just to cool the dish down, we're going to add a few slices of cucumber, and to add some sweetness, some pineapple. Two ingredients that are not here because I'm not able to find it, but if you can find it, please do add it to your Assam Laksa, because I really think that two ingredients brings everything up and brings everything together. And first of all, it is the ginger torch flour. It is also known as bunga kantan, and the other ingredient is asam galugo. It is made from a type of mangosteen fruit that is sliced and then later on dried. So it really adds a different kind of sourness to the dish. But if you do not have these two ingredients, it's okay. You're gonna do it like me, and anyway, it's gonna still taste very good. So let's move on to cooking. The first step to cooking Assam Laksa is to prepare the fish broth. So I'm going to cook this fish in water. You can cook this at low heat. So let it cool for about 10 minutes, and then we can remove the fish. So all we need to do now is to blend the galangal, turmeric, shallots, dried chilies, which are already softened with water earlier, and also belacan. Just going to break them into smaller pieces. Remember to cut them too if you want. And then it's time to blend. Just to ease the blending process, I'm going to add a bit of water to the ingredients here. Now that the blending is completed, we are going to remove the fish. It takes about 10 minutes, like I said, to cook the fish. We're going to leave it aside and then keep the broth, okay? So we are going to deal with the broth later, but before that, we have a pot of boiling water here, and this is where I'm going to add the spices that I just blended into this pot of boiling water. And once we add the spices in, we are going to add this Vietnamese coriander. The fish broth over here, what we are going to do is to sieve it so that we remove all impurities and also fish bones if there's any. So I'm going to keep it aside. While waiting for the broth to cook with the spices, we are going to prepare this fish. All we are going to do is to remove the flesh and just make sure that there aren't any bones. Now that we have discarded the skin, the bones, what is left is just the fish meat. So here I have a whole bowl, and I'm going to take half of it. I'm going to transfer it to another bowl. And then using a fork, I'm just going to mash this up. Now these are all mashed up. This will be then added into the soup, and then the other bowl, we are going to leave it aside for garnishing. Now that the broth is ready, I'm going to pour in the fish broth into this. Then increase the heat. Now before adding the fish pieces, I am going to add this tamarind paste. So the tamarind paste was pretty hard. I soaked it in water earlier and now it's soft. So all you need to do is just soak it with hot water at about 1 cup, 1.5 cup of water. And then we're going to add this to the soup to really create this sourness in the dish, and that is exactly what sells Assam Laksa. Now these are the ones with seeds. That's why I have to sieve it. You see the seeds here, right? You can also buy the paste if you want. After adding the tamarind paste, we are going to add these fishes which are already mashed earlier. Once all the ingredients are in the pot, we're going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes. So bring it to boil, and once it's boiling, let it simmer. So bring the heat down to the lowest. And then now we are adding a bit of sugar and also salt to taste. With a bit of salt and sugar, it will balance up the taste, but above all, the sourness has to be a bit more dominant. So before we serve the Assam Laksa, I'm going to remove the Vietnamese coriander. Now the next step is the big thing. It's finally almost ready. Now remember the laksa noodles that I prepared in my previous video? I have it here with glad wrap. So I waited for a while until this broth is ready. I'm going to pour it in. So you can do the same. You can prepare these noodles overnight and just cover it up with glad wrap. And now we're going to just blanch this noodle so that it's hard and then it's soft again. So here I'm just going to pour some broth over the noodles. You sure? A bit of shrimp paste, and then some fishes. Get a salad at the side. Cucumber, shallots, pineapple. I am also going to add a bit of chilies. Now just to make it nice, Assam Laksa is always accompanied by mint leaves. So this is also something that you can add, and it looks really, really pretty. The bowl of Assam Laksa is finally ready, and I can't wait to dig in. I have to mix this laksa noodles so that you know you have the shrimp paste mixed all around. And I have a small piece of pineapple. It's fantastic. It's so delicious. It's not too overpowering in terms of sourness. I think it really balances up onto the spiciness as well. There's a very small light hint of spiciness. The noodles, I tell you, is spot on. I love it, especially when I mix it with this shrimp paste, and then it comes all together as this sweetness from the shrimp paste and also the saltiness. More cucumber this time, maybe a small mint leaf. So this is the first time I'm taking such a long time to eat this bowl because it's really so delicious and every bite is just so special. So if you want to try out this recipe, remember, check out the description box below. The link to the recipe will be below. And then as usual, you can comment in the comment section as well. I love to hear from you on either Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And meanwhile, I am going to continue eating my bowl of Assam Laksa while you get really jealous about it because you have to make it yourself and then tell me your thoughts. So till then, I wish you happy cooking!